Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 16 Hungarian musical masterpieces, or at least delightful things, I couldn't live without. It's kind of interesting. You know, we talk about the great national traditions. We do Italy, we do Germany, we do France, we do, and people even want England. I mean, England! And the USA. Oh my God, the USA and Latin America. But we leave out places like Hungary, where, so many of the best musicians came from, and which has such a fabulous tradition of classical music. And so here are 16 Hungarian musical masterpieces by 16 Hungarian composers. Let's see where we wind up, shall we? Liszt, Hungarian Rhapsodies. I mean, come on. We got to start there, don't we? Oh, gosh, they're so fabulous and wonderful and delightful and delicious and lovely and all of that stuff. No, they're just great. And, Liszt's Hungarianness tends to get subsumed into his ecumenical program. He had in his later life a sort of triangle trade going on. He lived in Weimar, and he lived in Rome, and then he lived in Budapest, and then he sort of went back and forth around circulating. But he was originally, anyway, Austro-Hungarian. And how you divide up the Austro and the Hungarian part, I actually keep it very simple. The Austrian-German part is German, and the Hungarian part is Hungarian. So there you go. The Austrian-German part was in the German talk, and the Hungarian part has to be in the Hungarian part, because Hungary is a very, very separate country. Some people would say Austria is too, but I actually don't believe that. Austria is simply a bureaucracy in search of something to govern, and it doesn't have anything, and so it's kind of self-obsessed. But that's a whole nother issue. We'll talk about that historically maybe someday. The Hungarian Rhapsodies are astonishingly marvelous. Goldmark, the Violin Concerto. Karl Goldmark was a wonderful composer. As we know, we've talked about his Rustic Wedding Symphony, and some of you love his overtures, which are terrific. And there's the Queen of Sheba and stuff like that. Yeah. He knew what he was doing, and the Violin Concerto sometimes pops up. Perlman recorded it. Some people do it once in a while, and it's lovely, absolutely lovely. In fact, I've got a trio here of Hungarian violin concertos. Joseph Joachim, his Hungarian Concerto, which is his second violin concerto in the Hungarian style. It's a lovely work, a beautiful work. Rachel Barton Pine did a terrific recording of it, coupled to the Brahms Concerto for CD. You should know it if you don't. It's full of lovely, lovely ideas and wonderfully well scored for the violin and the orchestra. It's terrific. And then Hubay. Hubay's Violin Concerto number 3. He wrote a whole passel of violin concertos. Number 3 is probably the best of them. It's a major work. And he was one of those great violin pedagogue, virtuoso type critters that, ran around the second half of the 19th century. And his third violin concerto ought to be a repertory work. It would be a smash hit at any concert, and it's on Hyperion in the Romantic Violin Concerto series. So you can listen to it easily enough. The Hungarian violin tradition is a thing all by itself, an extraordinary thing. So you might want to investigate it at further depth when you have a chance. It's just wonderful, wonderful music and an incredible crop of soloist gypsy fiddlers and not gypsy fiddlers, and it's just a tremendous tradition. Kodály, of course, we have to do Kodály, the Peacock Variations. One of his greatest orchestral works. There aren't many. The Hariano Suite we already talked about in one of our suite lists. I think I was in there somewhere. But the Peacock Variations are just beautiful, and it's based on a patriotic tune. Kodály, who was not as forward-thinking as a composer as Bartók was, and who spent most of his career writing vocal music, songs and choruses, which are absolutely gorgeous. And the orchestral works, or you could have on one hand, right? There's the Concerto for Orchestra, the Symphony, the Summer Evening thing, the Hariano stuff, the Peacock Variations, okay, 2 hands, and the dances of Maroshek and Galanta. Those are the Kodály things, and that's about all there is. There are a few other things. There's the Hariano Overture and some other stuff. but very little. And the Peacock variations are one of the great variation sets in 20th century music. So give them a shot if you don't know it. Dohnányi, Ernst von, or Erno Dohnányi, however you want to pronounce him. Oh, he was just a marvelous composer. Conservative also. He was the grandfather, I believe, right, of the conductor Christoph Dohnányi, Christoph von Dohnányi, and his sextet in C major for piano, violin, viola, cello, clarinet, and horn. God, it's great. It's amazing. He had a sense of humor. He really did. You should know the orchestral suite in F sharp. You should know the nursery variations. But his chamber music is just terrific. Brahms admired it, actually, even though Dohnányi lived, I think, until around 1950 or something. He knew Brahms, and Brahms admired his chamber music because it's very Brahmsian. But the sextet is later, and it's funny. The finale is one of the greatest tunes in the universe. I can't sing it, but wow, is it fun! Give it a shot. You're gonna be totally entranced. Leo Weiner, or Weiner, if you want to call him that, his Hungarian folk dance suite. I mean, it's based on Hungarian folk dance. Is another conservative composer of the Brahmsian tradition who was a total ethnic nationalist type composer guy. His music is very, very pretty and top quality in terms of craftsmanship. And there's a lot more there that we don't know, that I don't know. We don't know. I don't know. I don't want to use the royal we, but it hasn't been recorded. So we don't have much of a chance to hear it. And he deserves to be exposed in much greater detail. After Weiner, Emmerich Kálmán, the great operetta guy, Die Csárdásfürstin. Yes, wow, baby, one of the most famous of all the classic Viennese operettas, and it's got lots of Hungarian mellows built into it. So that's something, if you don't know that particular operetta, you should grab it without delay and give it a shot. It's full of fantastic tunes, and it's a silly plot, and it doesn't matter, and it's all just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh my goodness, yes, Franz Schmidt. He was Hungarian. Isn't that interesting? At least Hungarian by birth. He wound up in the Vienna Phil playing the cello under Mahler, who he hated and who hated him, and it was mutual loathing or whatever it was. He's best known today for his Fourth Symphony and for his crazy oratorio, the Book of the Seven Seals, based on the Book of Revelation. That's one of those pieces like Delius's Massive Life. It's one of those weird choral things that people sort of fixate on. But the Fourth Symphony is a masterpiece, a fantastic work in a single gorgeous overarching movement that begins and ends softly with all kinds of events and things happening in the middle. He became a better known as an Austrian composer, but sorry, he was Hungarian. So there you go. I mean, there are some people, there's some blurry lines here. I admit there are. If you just go by where they were born as opposed to where they grew up. I mean, if you lived in Central Europe in what was then Austro-Hungary, it could really go either way, depending on, what part of it you settled in. But Schmidt is Hungarian. Damn it, he's Hungarian. Miklos Rózsa. Well, nobody's going to dispute that one. El Cid, his fabulous film score. It's one of the great film scores in the world. It's a Spanish topic. The tunes all sound Hungarian because everything Rózsa wrote sounded Hungarian, no matter what he did. Oh, but it's all wonderful. It's absolutely terrific. I was torn. There are so many Rózsa scores you could choose from. But I like El Cid. It's dashing and dynamic, and it's been recorded complete so that you can hear the whole thing, and it's absolutely thrilling. I could have chosen one of his, orchestral works like The Vintner's Daughter or something like that, But let's do a film score, shall we? Franz Léhar, He of the Merry Widow, another Hungarian operetta specialist. I chose his gold and silver waltz. When was the last time you heard that? It used to be ubiquitous. I mean, it's a really popular piece. It's just delicious. He was a great light music guy, and his success as an operetta composer has overshadowed his purely instrumental pieces. But the Gold and Silver Waltz is like a chestnut, a real chestnut. It's something you should revive without any hesitation. And after Léhar, who could be more appropriate? by contrast, Ligeti. Yeah, Ligeti. Oh my goodness, he was Hungarian Jewish, believe it or not, and somehow survived the Second World War. And I like Atmosphères, one of his avant-garde spacey pieces. I remember seeing a performance of it. You know, you take like a hairbrush and brush the inside of your piano or something like that. It probably comes out very clean and tidy. It's all texture, just drifting, atmospheric, yes, textures and things. It's totally fabulous. Ligeti was a very, very great composer. He managed to be both avant and also expressive and interesting and approachable and challenging. And he had so much. There's so much in what he did. Really a splendid 20th century voice. Then Laszlo Lajtha. I had never heard of this guy until Naxos Marco Polo started doing all of the symphonies. I mean, who knew? He wrote 9 symphonies. He wrote, well, there's actually more than that. There's this Soli, which is a symphony for string orchestra and percussion and things. And really a first-class composer. He was suppressed because he was a supporter of the 1956 revolution in Hungary. And so his music did not get much play outside of Hungary. Fortunately, he had a French publisher. And his style was often, French in essence, very timbrally interesting, and his score directions were written in French, and he had that aesthetic. He really did. And the Sixth Symphony is really cool. He wrote for huge percussion sections used with great delicacy. You usually needed like 9 percussionists, but he always puts at the foot of his scores, because I have most of them. He says, the fact that there's a lot of percussion and brass here does not mean that I want a crude sound. It must never be harsh or crude. It's very interesting. But the Sixth has a slow movement that's really weird. It has this sort of atonal, drifty, ostinato accompaniment on solo violins, and then on top of it there's this beautiful Hungarian folk tune in the flute, and the way that these things interact, the various layers of texture, is really special. It's a beautiful work. So give it a shot. You'll be very happy that you did, I guarantee it. Sándor Veress, 4 Transylvanian dances. I love these little suckers. I'll tell you where I first heard this piece. It was on a disc on ECM that had, who was it? Was it Zaydmeier and Camerata Baron or something like that? It had Verklärte Nacht and the Bartók Divertimento and this. It's a light work. It's not, major Sándor Veress, but, there's not a lot of Sándor Veress out there, frankly. And it's a wonderfully crafted and charming set of dances with some modern twists tossed in. It's really fun. It's really enjoyable. That was a great record. It's still available as a download. I don't think you could even get physical product on that thing anymore, but it was a discovery. So I'm sharing it with you now. Then there's Eugene Zádor, his Divertimento for strings. Why not? There's a Bartók Divertimento for strings, and why not Eugene Zádor? He wound up, I think, in New York for much of his career, but he was very Hungarian, extremely very Hungarian. I have some of his scores, too, sitting around, and it's sort of a pity that there isn't more of his stuff out there either. He was a good composer, a solid guy, and he was not ashamed of his Hungarianosity or Hungaritude or whatever you want to call it. His music is colorful and tuneful and really enjoyable. And last but not least, of course, you've all been waiting for this, right? Bartók. Oh, yeah, his Sonata for 2 pianos and percussion, which is one of his very greatest masterpieces and one of the lesser known. It's been recorded a million times, of course, but, it's more for piano connoisseurs and percussion connoisseurs than for, like, the normal public. I've seen this performed a lot of times. It makes a great coupling with George Crumb's Music for a Summer Evening, which is obviously based on, the conception of Bartók's conception. It's also for 2 pianos and percussion. But the first time I ever saw it was one summer at Tanglewood. I used to go up there in the summer with my friends because Phyllis Curtin, the great American soprano, had a box there. She was teaching there and was regularly involved there. And I went to high school with her daughter. And so, we were able to get some like special inns up at Tanglewood in the summer sometimes. And sometimes I just went there anyway because it was Tanglewood. And if you went there during the day, the Berkshire Music Festival and the music school up there, they had days of music. It wasn't just, the Boston Symphony at night, which was, I think I was seeing Mahler's 10th or something that day. But, you go there in the morning and there's nothing but chamber music concerts and things, all day with various ensembles. And in one of the smaller venues there, they did the Bartók Sonata for 2 pianos and percussion. And it just blew me away. Oh my God, what a masterpiece. A totally new study in sonority and timbre, and it's got Bartók's biggest sonata form first movement, and a finale which is a rondo that's extraordinary. I mean, it's full of folky jocularity, but the ending has the 2 most delicious chords in the world in C major. It ends at just nya, nya, and it drifts off into infinity with the snare drum going and fading out. It's incredible. An absolutely incredible piece. And the central slow movement is one of his night pieces. A really creepy, spooky night piece. Oh my God, it's a masterpiece. So there you have it. 16 Hungarian musical masterpieces I couldn't live without. And a lot of them were recent discoveries. They really were. I know that you will come up with your own list. It doesn't have to be 16 different composers. It can be the same composer. You can take some of my pieces if you love them as much as I do, or just supply your own. So go for it and keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.